Shalom Israel. This is Brother Ray J back with another edifying video. And this video, man, I just did another video on I just did a video on this, man, and today they released the affidavit for this woman. Alright, and I'm gonna show you two videos. I'm gonna show you the affidavit. I'm gonna show you the video of her account of this affidavit. Alright, then I'm gonna show you the lawyers explaining the affidavit that the Texas Rangers did on this woman. All right, and how it's so false to what any evidence that they have. All right, so we're gonna start off reading this affidavit. To any peace officer, I ain't gonna read all that. We're gonna get down to the point. Manslaughter, second-degree felony. All right, that's what she's been charged with. Now here's the affidavit. Before me, I understand the. We'll just go now. We'll get past all that BS. On September 6, 2018, about 9:59 p.m., Amber Renee Guyger committed the offense of manslaughter in violation of TPC 1904 felony of the second degree against complainant Botham Jean when the suspect Guyger shot and killed a compliment during an encounter. The offense occurred at 1210 South Lamar apartment, number 1478 in Dallas County, Texas. Complainant, I can't read all this law stuff, man. Complainant Jean is the resident tenant of apartment number 1478. Guyger, who is a Dallas police officer, lives in the same complex directly beneath the complainant, an apartment number 1378. But from what I heard from my brother Sakari my brother Gorilla Hebrew from Sakari is that apartment that she lives in is not directly under, and it's not 1378. It's a number off from what I heard. So that's a lie. All right. And apartment number 1478 and their respective interior floor plan are almost identical or extremely similar to the exterior surrounding structure and description of each other. Complainant Jean was home alone when Guyger, who had just ended her shift but was still in her Dallas police uniform, arrived at the apartment complex and parked her vehicle on the 4th floor of the parking garage, which should correspond to the floor that the resident lives on. So right there, that's a mess up right there. That's up. Why she parked it on the 4th floor if she lives on the 3rd floor? All right, she's going off. All right, that's how you can tell she's doing something wrong. Anyone knows, they know where they park every day, man. They know where they live every day. All right. Guyger entered the building and walked down the 4th floor hallway to what she thought was her apartment. She inserted a unique door key, all right, with an electronic chip into the door keyhole. The door, which was slightly ajar prior to Guyger's arrival, fully opened under the force of the key insertion, which is another lie. Plenty witnesses are on the scene saying that the door was completely closed, all right, and that she was knocking on the door, telling them to let them in, all right. Additionally, the door being open alerted complainant Jean to Guyger's presence, believing she had encountered a burglar, which was described as a large silhouette, which is they just trying to not call him a black male, like she wants to call him a silhouette. Across the room in her apartment, Guyger drew her firearm, gave verbal commands that were ignored by complainant Jean. As a result, Guyger fired her handgun 2 times, striking the complainant 1 time in the torso. This makes no sense. Why, if you walk into his house and started aiming a gun at him, he wouldn't say nothing back? Why wouldn't he not say nothing back? That's a lie. All right, and there's witnesses saying that they didn't hear anything. All they heard was gunshots. They didn't hear no conversation, and they can hear the walls. They can hear between the walls, man, easily. Guyger then entered the apartment and immediately called 911, requesting police and EMS, and provided first aid to the complainant Jean. Due to the interior darkness of the apartment, Guyger turned on the interior lights while on the phone with 911. Upon being asked where she was located by emergency dispatchers, Guyger returned to the front door to observe the address, discovered she was at the wrong apartment, which is a lie, man, because this brother, Botham Jean, he was from what I've heard, he was a man of, he did everything in order, and in front of his partner, he had a bright red rug for people to know that it wasn't their apartment. For them to be like, oh, this is definitely not my apartment. So it's another lie, all right? Guyger called 911 from her cell phone, requesting an ambulance and police to the offense location. Complainant Jean was transported to Baylor Hospital, where he died as a result of her injury. He died, man, for this damn devil, man. They killed him. Guyger remained at the scene and informed the responding officers and the 911 operator that she thought was at her apartment when she shot the complainant. Guyger believes she was in her apartment and confronted by a burglar when she fired the handgun, striking and killing him. How can you believe you're in the same apartment when you have different furniture, you have a different setup, it's a different apartment? When you inside the apartment, it's gonna look entirely different. This brother had a different rug, all right? His door was locked, okay? He opened the door and then he got shot. They didn't hear no conversation between them. All right, it's just insane, man. All the lies that they push out. All right, trying to make it seem like, oh, he was in the wrong. Well, we're going to see what the attorneys, and we're going to watch this video, and then I'm going to show you the attorney video. And it's just denying everything she said, man. I don't think that's what I want to do. It's right here. That's what I want. Here we go.
Right. Matt Howard.
Oh, shit. Here we go. Lucky.
Live. So, Matt, this official timeline came out a few hours ago. So how is Botham John's family responding to it?
Well, their attorney tells me that they are rejecting the timeline that police have put together. And tonight, that same attorney offered us a new detail in this case that, if true, is very eye-opening.
Flowers and unanswered questions are at the doorstep of Botham Jean's apartment. He was mistakenly shot and killed here last week by Amber Guyger, an off-duty cop, pointing the entire city to one question. How?
And we will get all the information out.
Did this happen?
And believe me, we will make certain that justice is done in this case.
Today, Guyger's official arrest documents shed some light on the shooting. According to the Texas Rangers, she lived directly below Jean, and that both apartments are in most ways identical. But after a 13-plus hour shift, the documents say Guyger parked on the wrong floor and went to Jean's apartment instead of hers.
The wrong floor. Parked on the wrong floor, like I told y'all.
Police say Jean's door was unlocked and slightly ajar. The documents say Guyger entered, thought Jean was a burglar, gave verbal commands, then fired her gun twice. The lights were off, and when Guyger turned them on, investigators say she realized she wasn't in her apartment. Eyewitnesses filmed her frantically pacing outside afterwards, while Jean took his final breaths. What's not clear tonight? How far into the apartment Guyger got before shooting and the details of those verbal commands she gave. And then there's this. Attorneys representing Jean's family.
Botham John is not here to give his version of what happened.
They say they've spoken to at least 2 witnesses who heard Guyger banging on Jean's door before he was shot, yelling, "Let me in."
Con, that's what I just said. She banged on his door trying to get him to let her in, man. But she said the door was ajar, that it was already open, and she just got in it, man. Just lies, man. All right?
Know that the evidence that exists contradicts this version of events that seems to offer as little culpability for this officer as possible.
As for Jean's family, they're not satisfied with any official story surrounding their son's death and are still searching for closure.
And something interesting to point out today, DA Faith Johnson says she had a spirited debate with police about choosing to charge Guyger with manslaughter, but the case is now in her hands, and a grand jury could even hand down a more serious charge. In Dallas tonight, Matt Howerton, Channel 8 News.
And that's what we're talking about right there. Then we're going to get this one right here, man. And after this, I'm going to cut it off. But this right here is the attorneys, man. Y'all just watch how the attorneys have something entirely different from what they're saying. This Affidavit is trying to make them look good. It's ridiculous. Trying to make she look like, you know, it done took her 3 days. They done got the story together. They didn't put nothing out. They didn't arrest her. They got her time to put a story together. And now they come out with this BS story, man. But these people are finna tell you everything that they're telling you is a lie, man. All right?
We are, and I don't know what we're calling it. It's an affidavit. Is that fair? That was released. We had to have a chance to review the affidavit ourselves and with the family. Quite frankly, there's some things about it that bother us, and some things that we believe independent evidence directly undermines. We're going to start with the fact that from what the family knows, what the family has discussed about Botham Jean is that he is not the type of person. He's a very meticulous individual, and he's a person who's about his routines. And that means when he comes into a room, he makes it a point to close the door behind him. He hangs his keys on a hook. He puts everything in a particular place. In fact, to ensure no one mistook his apartment, the way this officer is claiming to in this case, he went out to find the biggest, brightest red rug and place it right there at his doorstep so that he could identify and others could identify his apartment.
Pause. Like I told you, man, there's no mistake in this apartment. He had a bright red rug that no one could have mistaken, man. She's a damn liar. She's got her story together, and whatever she's hiding, she's going to have to die for this shit, man. Sorry, but this is... The lies that they come up with and expect us to believe as a people is ridiculous, man.
There's just other things about his routine that don't comport well with the story that's being offered by Ms. Guyger. Most importantly is that we have independent witnesses who have come forward to offer evidence that we believe refutes the claim that the door was propped open. In fact, the evidence that they've provided it seems to indicate that the door would have been closed at the time that Officer Guyger approached the door. The witnesses that we spoke to, and it's been at least two, and there's been other people that we spoke to directly, and there's been other accounts available on the internet, is that they heard knocking down the hallway, followed by a woman's voice that they believe to be Officer Guyger saying, let me in, followed by a series of knocking, followed by let me in.
Let me in. But she accidentally came across it. The door was ajar. The door was already open. Ridiculous, man. A damn liar and a damn devil, man.
We shared this evidence with the district attorney's office. At the time that we shared it with them, they were not aware of it. The witnesses came by to speak with the DA's office. And for them, it began to change the direction of how they were looking at the case, and again, flied in the face of some of the narratives that they were hearing at the time.
This affidavit is very self-serving. Botham Jean is not here to give his version of what happened because he's dead. Everything we know about this young man, this accountant, this meticulous person, is that he would have locked his door.
Period.
And what's more logical?
What black man you know that don't lock his door? Period. What Israelite you know that don't lock his door? So-called black man. Every one of us lock the door. We paranoid, man. Constantly make sure we double lock the door, the screen door, lock the regular door. Make sure it's right before we go to bed. Make sure it's right before we close the door, man. Because it's just the way we have to be in this society, man. All right? So for her to say that the door was unlocked is a damn lie, man. And there's evidence and proof and witnesses to prove that she's a damn liar, man. All right?
Those neighbors said they heard knocking. He opened the door, and she, for whatever reason, shot and killed a person who was in his apartment doing everything he absolutely had the legal right to do.
Damn devil.
And so we stand firmly that this release of affidavit is some suggestion trying to condone what happened. Give her a break. It's not that bad.
It's a life. Exactly. That's what his brother finna say. This man's life was taken by this damn witch-ass devil, man. Sorry for my language, man, but this man's life was taken. It's not that bad. Give her a break. That's what they want you to do, man. That's what they want you to do. Let it sweep under the rug.
is bad to the Jones family and many sensible people because the young man is dead. He is dead, and we'll never get his version of events.
And just to echo what both Lee and Ben have said, we've only had a brief moment to look at this affidavit, but this is what we were afraid of. When a police officer is allowed to stay on the streets for 72 hours.
I'm telling you, man, they can get their story together, man. That's what we already know. That's why they let her out for so long, waited so long to charge her. They're not fooling no one, man.
And have access to an attorney. This is what we start to see happen. These type of statements. And it's my understanding that this affidavit was drafted by the Texas Rangers. So that was another concern. Why did the Dallas Police Department give it to the Texas Rangers after they had already said they had enough information to charge this officer with manslaughter? So in essence, what they did was they gave this investigation to the Texas Rangers, and they gave this officer an additional day or two to craft up a story that our client is not here to defend.
Exactly. Gave them additional days to craft up their story, man. This damn devil sat down with her attorney, sat down with all the people, and came together with a story that could legally bypass where she's going to get manslaughter. But we're going to see if it works, man. And I doubt it will, man. I doubt we'll get any justice, man. Because we ain't going to never get no justice in this world, man. Period.
And we have seen this over and over throughout this country, that officers come up with these stories because they have attorneys assisting them with it. But again, we have to remember, he was at his house. She went into his apartment.
Exactly.
And she's now trying to make it appear as if this guy was the bad guy, that he was actually out on the streets committing a crime. That's the narrative they want to make. First, we get that officers are in fear of their lives. Now we're getting something that she went into the wrong apartment and this guy would not follow her commands. What were those commands? I didn't see it in the affidavits. It was not very specific at all. It was very broad and very vague, and it leaves room to add additional stuff, which makes us think it's attorneys that have coached this witness. But again, what we know is that had that officer not stepped in to that apartment, Bo would be here today. There is nothing that he did that justified this officer killing him. We don't believe it should be manslaughter. This was an intentional shooting. Intentional shooting, and this officer should be charged with murder. But to get this affidavit now, we're now seeing that they're trying to...
She needs to be put to death, man. Like the Most High says in Numbers 35 and 31, man. Let me get that real quick, man. She needs to be put to death, man. We don't want no weak charges, man. We want her to be put to death, man. Put to death. Get that, man. These damn devils, man. I hate this world, man. There's never gonna be no justice here in this world. Get Numbers 35 and 31. Moreover, ye shall take no satisfaction. Oh, my bad. We're going to go to 30. All right. Whoso killeth any person, the murderer shall be put to death. We don't want her to do no time, man. We don't want her to do none of that. We want her to go through the same thing that brother had to go through. We want her to go through that. We want her family to go through the same thing that these brothers got to go through, man. I mean, they family got to go through. All right. We want nothing less, man. All right. Nothing less than that, man. Whoso killeth any person, the murder shall be put to death by the mouth of witnesses. And there's plenty of witnesses saying that she knocked on the door and waited for him to open the door, then killed him. All right? But after the death of the high priest, the slayer shall return into the land of possession. Oh, my bad. I'm reading the wrong thing. Okay, my bad. 30. Whoso killeth any person that murder shall be put to death by the mouth of the witnesses. But one witness shall not testify against any person to cause him to die. And you got multiple witnesses saying this girl is a liar, man. All right? This damn devil is a liar. All right? Moreover, ye shall take no satisfaction for the life of a murderer. I did this yesterday. I did this on my earlier video, man. I pulled a scripture. You can't take satisfaction for the life of a murderer. All right? Like the police department is doing. Holding it back. Letting her get 3 days to get her story together, man. Letting her get all the things so she can come to the court and get away with what she's trying to do, man. And do something that's approved by an attorney. All right? So you can't take no satisfaction in a murderer, man, which is guilty of death. But he shall surely be put to death. They shall surely be put to death, man. They should go through the same thing that their family going through, their people. And she should go through the same thing that brother seen before he died. All right? Get one more scripture while I'm already on here. Get Isaiah 59:4, man. I think that's what I want. You're not gonna get no truth here, man. It's not gonna never happen, man. No justice is ever gonna come. For your hands are defiled with blood, and your fingers with iniquity. Your lips have spoken lies. Your tongue have murdered persuasiveness. None calleth for justice. They don't want justice, man. They don't want her to die for what she did. All right? But they'll kill our brother in a second, man. They'll inject him with chemicals to kill him in a second, man. None calleth for justice, nor any pleaded for truth. They don't want to speak this truth, man. The Most High only came for Israel. That you got to keep all the commandments. That you got to live by all his ways and do the works in the faith. They don't want to hear that, man. And that you got to repent. They trust in vanity and speak lies. They trust in vanity, man. They know they lying to the people, man. But they trust in it because it's worked for them plenty of times, man. They conceive mischief and bring forth iniquity, man. That all they deal with is mischief, man. And they sinning, man. All they are is sinners, man. That you trust in to do your the law keeper, man. How can your judges be corrupt and you be using them as your the teller? The king has to be just. Whatever the king is what you're gonna be. The people is gonna be. Let me pour that. I gotta pour that. Let me get Sirach 10:1. That's what I want. Oh, Salaki. Then we're gonna get back to the video. I'm gonna get Sirach 10:1 for my people. All right. Okay. There we go. Sirach 10:1. All right. A wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered. As the judge of the people himself, so are his officers. And what manner of the man, ruler of the city, is such are all that are dwell therein. So whatever that judge is what these people are going to be. In America, you got corrupt judges. You got corrupt officers. So how can you trust in the system, man, when they're all corrupt and they're sinners, man? An unwise king destroyed this people, but through the prudence of them which are in authority, the city shall be inhabited. All right? So the unwise king gonna destroy their people, man. It's no way around it. It's what people don't understand, man. And I'm already in. I said that was the last one, but I gotta get these. Psalms. Psalms 14, chapter 14. No, I'm tripping. Psalms chapter 94. That's all I want. No, I say 14. But Psalms chapter 94 and 20. Shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee? which frameth the mischief by law. They frame the good people by law, man. They framing that brother saying that he played some part in his death, man. All right, like he wasn't responding to orders. All right, they frame it, make it look like, oh, it was just an accident. They made it like he was the dude that messed up. But she's the one that came in his brother's house and killed him, man. Chapter 21. They gather themselves together against the soul of the righteous and condemn the innocent blood. They condemn the innocent blood, man. That's what she's doing. All right? They condemn the innocent. All right? I'm telling you, if we did this, man, we would be murdered. No, it wouldn't be no 3-day wait. It wouldn't be none of that. All right? I'm going to get one more. Habakkuk 1 and 4, and then I'm going to be done. Therefore, the law is slacked, and judgment doeth never go forth. So the law is slack, man. These people ain't keeping the laws, man. And judgment, it never goes forth. You ain't going to never get judgment, man. You ain't going to never get true justice. All right? For the wicked doeth compass about the righteous, therefore wrong judgment proceedeth. So the wrong judgment proceedeth, man, because the wicked are controlling the world. So all their judgment is going to be wickedly. All right? So you can't expect anything less from these people who don't keep the laws, aren't keeping the commandments, are Esau, majority of them. And the people that aren't Esau, they don't sow their soul, literally and figuratively. So you people you gotta realize this, man. All right? So I'm going to go back to the video and finish out the video, man. I just had to show y'all scriptures, man. You can't trust in America, Israel. You ain't going to never get justice. These attorneys ain't going to give her justice. The DA's office ain't going to give them justice, because the only justice that the Most High says he wants is her to be put to death by Shema Mashiach Yahushua. And that's the only thing, man, and nothing else.
Put this information out to get sympathy from the public that this poor officer made a mistake. And it's very unfortunate that an affidavit will come out with this type of information when we've been told all along that they did not want to mess with the integrity of this investigation by releasing information. And now this statement comes forward. It's very problematic.
They didn't want to deal with the integrity. We watched on my last video how this woman made the biggest deal about the integrity of the DA video, how they made the biggest deal about the integrity of the case. But this is what they released. This is what they released as the affidavit, man. But it's supposed to be all about integrity and keeping the information withheld to the people, just to ensure that the case was successful.
If we will, and again, I for one outright reject this affidavit, but if we were to entertain this version of events, it's important to know that when Officer Guyger arrived to that door, she saw, as she alleged, a suspect in her mind that she thought was an intruder. She then began acting as a law enforcement officer. She then began saying, "Hey, put up your hands. Let me see your hands," and giving those commands. And so the idea that this woman was off duty goes away. And now she's behaving or holding herself out as a law enforcement officer, although in the process breaking the law. It's also important to add that this was the affidavit for her manslaughter warrant. In other words, even if we adopted her version of the events, it still provides sufficient probable cause that a crime was committed. But it's the lowest possible crime. And we think that the additional facts that we have, the facts about Botham's processes and routines, about the identifying markers, not only at the front of his door, which would have been the first indicator, but all around his apartment. This is his apartment. This wasn't her apartment, so there wouldn't be the same smell, there wouldn't be the same furniture, there wouldn't be the same lighting patterns.
That's what I'm saying. How can you confuse someone's apartment if everything is the same, man? Like the Most High says, Proverbs 6:16, man, he hates those people who speak lies, man. All right, it's 6 things that the Lord hates, man. He hates people who speak lies, man. She's speaking lies. There's no way that your apartment that you go through every single day, you're going to confuse it with any other apartment. Much less when you walk in and you see it's not yours. Much less when you see a red rug on a bright red rug at the bottom. Much less when the door is locked and your key's not working. Much less when you bang on the door and tell them to let her in. She a damn devil liar, man. There's no way around it.
would have been a number of identifying markers to alert her, including the absence of her dog, which she owned.
And she owns a dog. I didn't even know that. So her dog wasn't even there. And she owns a dog. She's a damn liar, man.
If this woman is a dog owner and her dog is not there greeting her or making any noise, it would seem to indicate to her that maybe she had entered the wrong apartment. Entering the wrong apartment is very difficult to do if you are sober. And we understand that a blood sample was taken.
That's what I'm saying. You cannot do that if you're sober-minded, man. It's no way in the world of going to your same place every single day, knowing your house, knowing which floor. She didn't even park on the right floor. Knowing where you got to go, all right? There is no way possible that you're going to misinterpret your place that you live in for a long period of time, and you got a dog, and you know that your furniture, and you know your house, and you know your number, and you know your floor. It's too many things, man. She's a damn liar, man.
It may be months before we receive the results of that blood sample. However,
I want the blood sample too, man. Because if this is a true story, man, she had to be drunk. She had to be all on drugs. All right, that's anyway. That might be the reason why they waited 3 days, man. You never know Esau's tricks, man. Like I just read to you, you cannot trust these people, man. Their judgment is wicked, man. All right? Their judgment is never righteous, man.
The information that we've heard up until this point seems to indicate that she was not under the influence of any drugs. And if she was or alcohol, and if she was in her uniform, it would have been inappropriate for her to be under the fluids of alcohol. Therefore, if she's sober, going to that door and missing all of those multitude of markers, including the fact that she was on the wrong floor and entering an apartment that was not hers, then it's difficult to buy that narrative. We'll take some questions now, and I assume we're not live anywhere, so I'm going to discipline my children for a moment. Hey, guys, I need you completely quiet. Quiet.
And before we take a question,
Jake had to get onto his kid.
We often do this. Common sense. When I start really thinking about this, we're on Lamar. The Dallas Police Headquarters is less than 5 minutes away. Training states that if you go to an apartment and the door appears to be open and you thought that there was a burglar, somebody in there, the simple thing would have been to do was to back out and call the police. Call for backup.
Exactly.
That would have been...
Exactly. Anyone would have did that. Exactly. He's a damn liar, man. She's a damn liar.
Police officers are trained to do. They're not trained. If they thought it was a burglary, they're going to open the door with your gun out. There was no reason for her at that particular time to go inside that apartment if she thought that someone was in there. She can just call and ask for backup. If she'd have done the proper thing, officers would have come out there. She would have had backup. And by the time backup got there, she would have been like, wait a minute, this is not even my apartment. She would have known this. That's common sense, right? But what we see now is justification and trying to make excuses. Exactly. And when you make excuses and you take excuses to the evidence, it just doesn't add up whatsoever. So when we read this and she states that an apartment was open, come on, how many of us, if we got home after 10 and we saw that the door was possibly open, how many people are going to go inside?
Exactly. What I told you, man. That's what I'm telling you, man. It's just ridiculous.
Somebody was inside. It makes no sense.
No sense.
And this is the reason why at that point that door was open and she went inside with her gun drawn, she no longer was off duty. We can stop that narrative. This was a police officer. This was not an off-duty shooting. She was on duty investigating what she thought was a crime being committed. So no, she was not an off-duty officer.
So do you guys suggest that there was a confrontation at the door instead of her just walking in with the witnesses saying that there was banging on the door?
What we're suggesting is that the version of events that is being offered in such a way to mitigate any liability. We don't actually know what happened. We still don't have all the evidence. We know that the evidence that exists contradicts this version of events that seems to offer as little culpability for this officer as possible. And we think it's irresponsible, by the way, for investigators and the district attorney's office, frankly, to only let out this side of the narrative, when even they know that they have evidence, even beyond what we have, that would undermine this story.
Exactly.
And so when we've been discussing over the past few days about favorable treatment for law enforcement officers during their investigation, the release of this affidavit, we believe, is an additional indication of that.
If you would, describe in more detail the witnesses, what they said, the tone, as much as you can share.
You go first.
Okay, so the witness that we spoke to, who are residents of the apartment, and they live nearby this location. Two of them were at their apartment together. One was happened to be in a quiet room reading a book, and so she was in the best position to hear things. And she heard a pounding at the door. The other one, who was in the living room watching TV, she also heard the same pounding at the door. The person, the key witness, essentially, who heard more because she was in a quiet room reading, said she heard pounding at the door, and she heard "Let me in," shouted by "Let me in," at an elevated tone. She heard more pounding at the door, and then shortly thereafter, she heard gunshots. She went in to check with her sister, who happened to also be in the building. That sister told that her sister was outside investigating the gunshots. She grabbed her sister and said, "There's a shooter out there. You need to stay in the apartment complex." The sister says, "No, it's okay. I see a law enforcement officer," meaning this is probably a controlled situation. This person then went out to investigate herself. I missed an important detail. She also heard words. So as she was pounding, and after the gunshots, she heard what she believed to be the voice of a male, what we believe to be the last words of Botham, Jean, which was, "Oh my God, why did you do that?" And there was nothing heard after that.
Murdered that brother.
Yes.
Oh my God, why did you do that?
Yeah. And what's very significant about this is these are independent witnesses. They don't have a dog in this fight. They're not coming forth to try to save their freedom. They're just saying, this is what we observed. And in fact, they then go out and they videotape the officer pacing on the phone versus trying to offer life-saving aid to the person who she just shot, who she
and
now
then they
realized.
act like she's tried to save his life. That's what they act like. Oh, he tried to save it. She didn't administer life-saving aid. That's what they put in the affidavit. But what do you see on the video? Her pacing back and forth, man. A damn liar, man. She didn't do none of that shit. Shot that brother dead in cold blood, man.
That was not her apartment, and she just shot an innocent man. She's not trying to render aid. She's on the phone doing something, talking to somebody. We don't know exactly who, but we know at some point she did talk to her attorneys, and they started getting the narrative together that seems to the family to be very self-serving and to be contradicted by these independent witnesses who are saying what they heard not only after the shooting, but before the shooting.
It's also worth noting that this witness didn't run out and report this to social media. She didn't report it to a law enforcement officer because what she just observed was the behavior that she believed to come from law enforcement officer. She did reach directly out to this family and say that, I'm not interested in having my name out or getting attention from this, but there's information that you should know that I believe, she said she believed at the time contradicted the prevailing narrative that was going forward at the time that this officer stumbled into the wrong apartment, because she knew that she heard knocking at the door, and that's inconsistent with someone approaching an apartment that's both open or one they believe to be theirs. If you believe the apartment to be yours, you don't knock at the door.
And the other thing, if the door is open, why are you fidgeting with your keys trying to get in if the door is open.
Exactly.
Once you put your key in, it's going to go open if it's truly open. So it just seems to not make sense when you step back and think about it logically.
And I'm sorry, I know you have a question, but he brought up an important point, and I think we should all sort of key in on it. Everyone confirms that the officer's key was found in the door. Now, her testimony in this most recent affidavit is that she went into that door not believing anyone was in her apartment. That's not what she went in there. She said she got into the apartment and she saw a shadowy figure. Why didn't you take your key out the door? People don't typically leave their key in the door when entering their apartment.
Exactly.
And so that just, among a multitude of other things, it makes no sense. She abandoned her key at the door, went in to look at her apartment, and then found somebody there that she wanted to execute. It's just, there's so many holes in this story.
Damn liar,
and I wish we could say, and here's what actually happened. We don't know what actually happened. We just know that this story doesn't hold up.
Two questions. The witness, did she say at all to you a feeling that she got about the sense of what was going on, a possible relationship, if there was a sense of urgency? Was there more, I guess, a negative feeling is what I'm trying to get you to describe?
Sure. She described in her words that the voice sound personal, that it sounded desperate, that it was elevated, but it didn't sound like, hey, open up, it's the police. It sounded like, open the door, I want you to talk to me or interact with me. And I can't draw, and she didn't draw any relational aspect from that, but she just said it didn't feel like a dry, authoritarian law enforcement opened the door. It felt personal.
And the second question, is there any chance that he was expecting somebody, because that was alluded to in the search warrant, they're confiscating laptop, cell phone, thinking that they may find some communication between Botham and somebody that may have been coming to the apartment?
I can say that if he was expecting someone, it is not his habit, his routine, or his character to leave the door open, propped open, in order for them to arrive. They would have to knock or call like any other person in order to enter the property. And that's just based on speaking to the family, who knows his routines well, speaking to his best of friends. And we've spoken to his friends and the people who were talking to him that night. None of them were saying that they were headed on their way over to his apartment.
And just to be clear, this witness heard knocking and let me in before gunshots.
Before gunshots. And to be clear, she also said she heard open up, let me in, which made her think that if she didn't think this was her apartment, why would she be telling somebody on the other side to let me in? It's almost as if this narrative continues to evolve to fit her exoneration. These independent witnesses are saying this is what they heard. And so if you are locked out and your key isn't working in your door, if somebody's in your house, why don't you call them on the cell phone? It's just so many questions as to if she really believed this was her apartment, why would you be knocking on the door?
Exactly.
Or if you thought it was your apartment and you saying, let me in, and now you're saying you saw a silhouette, why would you kill somebody in your apartment that you thought perhaps somebody was in your apartment? And if she thought she was at her own apartment and she was knocking on the door saying, let me in, why would you shoot somebody?
Question.
And I want to throw this out there, and I'm going to get to your question, but this is an important distinction. This is not somebody that we found on the internet. This is someone who reached directly out to the family. More importantly, this is a person who submitted herself to the district attorney investigators, was able to provide a detailed statement to be questioned by investigators who work for the district attorney's office. This is not something that we're saying take our word for it. Obviously, the DA is not going to turn over their witnesses. Of course, you all can seek them yourselves, but we want to say that we wouldn't come forward with this evidence unless we believed it to be credible, and we find from our own conversations and from their behavior up until this point that these witnesses are very credible.
In the search warrant,
and the only reason we're talking about this is this affidavit somehow has been released that's very one-sided.
Sure. In the search warrant, it talks about a surveillance system, the potential of there being one. Are you aware that there was any in the house or in the apartment?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Just to clarify, you said that she spoke with the DA, the investigating DA. Do you know if she spoke to the investigating
These brothers don't gave more answers to questions
The
than the
district
damn
attorney's
DA's
failed to find
office
this person. They were
and
aware
everyone
that she
else.
existed. The district attorney asked them to find this person.
These brothers actually answering questions. My last video, you watch the DA's office, you watch all these people, they trying to protect themselves, man. It's ridiculous, man. Texas Rangers, all of them, they just care about their department.
Their affidavit without ever speaking to her.
And how close were these witnesses to the apartment where the shooting happened?
I couldn't give you a proximity. They were close enough to hear.
And certainly that video.
Oh, they were the ones who took the video?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the video, it's
Yeah, the video shows you the proximity.
Was that the video, the person who took the video, was that the girl in the quieter room, the one reading, or the one in the TV room?
We,
The one who took the video, was it the girl in the quieter room or
well,
the TV room?
we don't know. Let's let that.
But you think it was one of them that took
Yeah.
it?
And then the search warrant record, it talks about the cell phone being seized from Bo's living room and that there was a laptop as well that they looked at, but it was damaged. Do you know anything about those?
We have given you all additional information. Unfortunately, we don't want to give out too much more information that
giving out
perhaps
good
may interfere
information.
with the investigation. We wanted to address this affidavit and some of our concerns with this affidavit and some of the statements that were made by witnesses that contradict this affidavit. But as far as additional stuff that's been confiscated, et cetera, we cannot talk about that type of stuff without risking the investigation.
I know you guys have done a lot of press conferences this weekend and today. What was the last thing you guys have heard from Botham's family about this affidavit? Have they had a chance to read it just yet, or have you guys briefed them about it? And what's their reaction?
We have briefed them about it. This affidavit offers a narrative that is highly inconsistent with the young man that they knew, and highly inconsistent with the evidence that we have in front of them, and they reject it outright as we do.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, man. It's just crazy, man. Them brothers right there sitting there telling you that everything they telling you is a lie. Everything the government don't put out is a lie. I gotta do one last scripture, and with that, I'm gonna end it off, man. This is the future of this woman, man, what she gonna have to deal with. She might not have to deal with it in this life. She might get away with it and be able to, she might be able to get away with it, and she might get manslaughter. She might do all this, and she still might get manslaughter. She might, get away with the whole thing, man. She might, there's no telling what will happen, man. It really happened. Because you can't expect for the people to make decisions to be just. All right? But if any man have an ear, it's Revelations 13:9. If any man have an ear, let him hear. Anyone that got an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. And he that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. So that damn devil gonna have to get killed with the sword, man. And that's our patience and faith. That's what we waiting on, man. All right? So, she might get away with it in this life or get away with it for a while. But when the Most High Yahweh Shema Mashiach Yahweh Shah come back, all right? When Yahweh Shah comes back, it's going to be a wrap, all right? Because she going to get thrust through, man. All right? We're going to kill her, period. Damn devil, man. It's a shame, man. All right? With that, we're going to give all praise to Yahweh by Shema Mashiach, Malak Yahweh Shah. All right? Shalom, Israel.